This sand effect relies upon an outer bevel to give the impression of the letters being raised from the sand. Let's switch to the beginning file. Because the effect requires the application of a filter as well as layer effects, the first thing I'm going to do is convert the type layer to a smart object. I'll right-click on it, convert to smart object. Next, I'm going to take the fill opacity down to 0. Until we add the effects, that's going to make the type disappear. I'll now double-click to the right of the layer name to come to the Layer Style dialog box. Come to Bevel and Emboss. Now it just so happens that these are the values that I want because it always remembers the last values used. You'll want to vary these amounts according to the size of your image and according to the typeface that you're using. Just for context, my image is 1536 pixels wide. So I'm using an outer bevel, and that's crucial. That's the whole point of this movie. And the technique is smooth. I've increased the depth. I've increased the size to 37, slightly softening it. The angle and altitude will also play a big part. Through trial and error, I ended up with an angle of 153 and an altitude of 32. For the highlight and shadow mode, rather than go with the default of white and black respectively, I'm sampling the colors from the image itself. So I'm using a light sand color for the highlight and a dark sand color for the shadow. So once that's in place, we can now apply some blurring. I can apply the blurring using one of a number of filters. The one I'm going to use is the path blur. I'll come to the blur gallery and choose path blur, and then I can move this pin around to indicate the direction of the path blur. I don't want it to be centered, but I am going to increase its speed. Obviously you can dial in these values according to your own taste. But there is the finished effect, a combination of an outer bevel and a path blur. And very importantly, the fill opacity of the layer is set to 0.